want to talk about some stuff that I've been seeing on the internet for the last few weeks or so. And they're regarding the Alien franchise, and I want to talk about that for a bit. But there's there are articles with the headlines like this one. I get a lot of this headline. Fox reportedly looking to reboot Alien franchise with new timeline. Look, the other day I had another viewing of Alien Covenant, and watching it again allowed me to delve deeper in all of the things that go on underneath the surface. Because Prometheus and Alien Covenant are like an iceberg, and the movies on their face are the tip of the iceberg. But underneath the surface there's a lot going on. There's references to Greek mythology, Norse mythology, there's biblical references, there's really philosophical questions, big bold questions about life and creation and gods and stuff like that. And these are movies that really leave you thinking about, really interesting stuff. And as such, I think both Alien Covenant as well as Prometheus a few years ago gave us a few pieces of really intelligent sci-fi unlike we had seen in a long, long time. Now, these are themes that I picked up from the original as well, which Cameron built a little bit on, not as much as he could or maybe should have, but I picked them up from the original as well. And I think that is what makes the Alien franchise so fascinating. There's some really poignant social commentary going on about humanity and its flaws, and I think that's really interesting stuff to think about and sort of have a conversation about. Now, of course, the franchise has since become completely derailed, and I'll get back to that in a second. But in the meantime, there's always sort of been a conversation among both us in the fan base as well as people involved with the franchise about that it would be really interesting not only to explore the space jockey and what he was all about and what the deal was with the Derek spacecraft and all that jazz, but also to build on those themes. So when Ridley Scott was given back the reins for Prometheus, I and many with me, we were excited that Ridley Scott decided to delve deeper into those themes. Now, the problem here is that right now as moviegoers we are at a place where our expectations have become molded by certain formulas that have been rehashed in the last few decades, both in sci-fi as well as in horror, and that has molded our expectations of what both Prometheus and Alien Covenant should have been. And that's not to say that the same can be said for how, sequels and prequels work. And I think a lot of the backlash has to do with that. But, let's talk about Backlash for a bit. I mean, when the original came out in '79, it got a lot of backlash. Critics hated it. They completely panned it. It was too much gore, and it was a B movie, and people hated it. The same is true for Blade Runner, by the way, another Ridley Scott classic. Now, both movies have since not only become beloved cult classics and pop culture phenomena, but they've also become the gold standard for sci-fi, and both movies have stood the test of time brilliantly, not only in terms of visual, but in terms of thematics. Not to mention that neither of them has really been topped by anything or anyone since. And that's got to count for something. I think that is a legacy that Fox can be proud of. I think they should want more of it. And I think they can get more from the guy whose vision this was in the first place. Right? Now, like I said before, Ridley Scott has given us more, to explore. He's expanded on his world. He explored the space jockey like he said he would. And, we're finally gradually getting to that point where we're getting some of these answers that we've been seeking all of this time. And now Fox is just considering scrapping all that, just chucking it in the bin because of Backlash. Okay, so what is this Backlash that you're talking about? It's not the critics. Alien Covenant has a 71% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, has a pretty good rating pretty much across the board on every other platform. And all of the reviews I've seen not only pretty much all agree that this is not a bad movie and that it has some really, strong elements in, creating the dread that we've come to associate with the franchise, that it has its own setting, its own atmosphere while still being part of that world, right? But they also pretty much all agree that Ridley Scott's vision is the way to go. So that is not the problem. It can't really be the fan base either. Because like I said, we've been talking about exploring the space jockey and all that jazz for decades. And that's exactly what Ridley Scott's giving us. So is it financial backlash? Is that what Fox is talking about? I mean, granted, Alien Covenant did not make as much money as Prometheus did, and I think even then they were disappointed. But they didn't lose money. Alien Covenant almost tripled its budget. But I think there's something that they might not have considered. A few things, actually. First of all is, you got to think about the legacy of the Alien franchise. Alright? Maybe now, in this particular instance, you didn't make enough money as you would have liked, Fox. And I think that is an argument that has a lot of moving parts. Because again, I think the sort of, formulaic complacement that we've come to have is a moving part in that argument. But don't you break that mold by giving us something new and clever? And besides, I think you also forget that we as moviegoers are your customers. And we as Alien fanatics are your loyal customers, at least when it comes to the Alien franchise. I mean, if Alien Resurrection were to come out tomorrow, I would probably go and see it. Right? But that doesn't mean that's what I want. Right? What we want is walking out of that theater, with food for thought and angst in our bones. That's what the Alien franchise should do. And look, well, one of my biggest regrets in life has always been being born too late to experience the original when it came out in theaters. I would have loved to be there and be part of it. And in terms of like, and of course, it wasn't as new as it was then, but there were a few moments in the movie that made me feel genuinely uncomfortable, and that is what I wanted. That's what I that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that dread, and that, you know, I want to walk out of the theater scared and fascinated. And Alien Covenant did that for me, and as such made up for some of that, you know, not being able to experience it when it first came out. But my fear is, if you just scrap all that and come up with, like, I mean, here's the thing. If you want a low threshold, zero brains, eye candy science fiction, then go get the rights to Starship Troopers and go make that. Why does the Alien franchise have to be that? Nobody's asking for that. Everybody, including Ridley Scott, agrees that it's not another shooter that we're waiting for, right?
Right.
So if it's not the fans, the critics, and the finances, in terms of Backlash, what else is there? So the question here is, Fox, are you seriously telling me that you're considering destroying this legacy again because of some whiny bitches on the internet? Some 12-year-old trolls that weren't here when we were having that space jockey discussion? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, Fox. You know what happened last time a studio catered to the wishes of whiny trolls on the internet? We got Suicide Squad. And that movie almost sank the DCEU before it even got started. That's the direction you're looking to go in. No, 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 no. Look, if you want, it's not rocket science. If you want people in theaters, you do that by dishing out good movies. And the only way you're going to get the best movie you can possibly make is if you give the people making the movie the space and the room to breathe and allow them to immortalize their vision as they see fit. That is how you get the best movie. And I'll take it a step further and say that even now, with the reins back in his hands, Ridley Scott doesn't have that space. It's well documented that he wasn't originally planning on putting any xenomorphs in this particular movie. He was going to further explore the whole engineer thing. So let these people do their jobs, Fox. Let these people do their jobs. Look, and at the very least, allow Ridley Scott to finish Awakening. Right? Because if you go down this Twitter whiny bitches on the internet rabbit hole, then we're just back at square four. See what I did there? Then you're just full circle back to just stagnating the whole thing and turning it into a ridiculous debacle. And I think Alien deserves more. Look, you want to do this with like whatever, Johnny and the Space Rangers or whatever, have at it. But Alien deserves more. Because Alien is a pop culture icon that was given to us, to the world, by the very guy whose work you're now trying to frustrate. So pretty please with sugar on top. Let Ridley Scott do his job in peace. And don't ruin the franchise again. Thank you. Peace.